What's up again, everybody? Today's going to be a bit of an interesting video because what I thought I was going to make a video about is just sort of unraveling more and more and more, and I'm not sure where this is exactly going to go, but I'm basically going to talk to you about Dynasty. First of all, we should probably mention that a card has officially been spoiled by a non-LSS related entity. I guess that's the best way to say that. There's probably like a better way to say that. The first official community spoiled card has occurred, and it happened with the Tall Timmy. I'm going to put the link for his video. You should go watch it. It's super fun in the description. No, I'll probably put it in a comment. That's easier to find. I'll put it in the comment, and you can go click it and watch it. You should do that because it's a fun time. And also, go check him out on Twitter because he's doing a cool giveaway that you should totally jump on and become, a part of. But the card itself in question is a really neat looking axe, and it's one that, like, if you are big into, like axes, or I guess I should say, if you're big into connecting cards as well across sets, well, this is the reason that Shatter and Spill Blood exist in a way. It is called Merciless Battle Axe. It attacks for 3, costs 3 to attack with, so it's really not very cost effective. It's 3 for 3, which is not great. And it says when it attacks, if its attack is greater than twice its base, which means you have to push this to 7 for this next portion to trigger. The attack gains a new keyword called Overpower, which is basically kind of like Dominate, but not quite like Dominate. And it says this can't be defended by more than 1 action card. So you can basically use 1 action card to defend it. You can also use equipment as well, but you can defense react to this essentially. So it's kind of a cool keyword that I think is a little bit fun and new and fresh. And it also looks incredible if you like Marvels. And this one, I think this set is going to be insane for Marvels. I think this set is going to be insane, period. And that's kind of what I'm going to be getting at with this video. This set, in a lot of ways, I think is going to be perhaps the most important set in the game, which is like a weird thing to say because we haven't seen like a ton of spoilers for it. But it's setting itself up based on like this weapon and just in general the way that they've spoiled a couple of things like the equipment, the legendary equipment, a new hero, to be very reminiscent of Crucible of War, which in my opinion was probably the most influential set till this point for basically what it allowed you to do with the different decks. I think this is posturing itself to be Crucible of War adjacent and possibly even more impactful than that. And not even just from that perspective, it's also going to be a groundbreaking set for lore, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, because I think the lore is going 0 to 60. We'll just put it that way. It is picking up at a very fast pace, and we're starting to see some payoff to some questions if you've been following along with the lore, and that's pretty exciting. But back to this Merciless Battle Axe, I don't think at this point it's super great until we see some more stuff spoiled for it. Like, you can Spill Blood plus another buff here, but you still have to pay 3 to get this to 7, and then you probably don't swing it a second time unless you find a way to swing it a second time. I don't know. But I bet you there's going to be some interesting stuff to combine this with. And the fact that it's a simple warrior weapon and it can be used by any warrior is really good because it just keeps your options incredibly open going forward. I think that's super smart and super cool. But let's talk about what I originally envisioned this video to be, and that is that's kind of a weird thing. So let me pull this onto the screen and show you why I think this set is going to be pretty huge. Because if you go to the Collector's Center, and the way that I got here is literally just dropping down the Game tab and going Collector's Center. If you go to the Collector's Center, there's something that I noticed a while back, and that was actually recommended that I check out. I forget who sent this to me. If you sent this to me, you're awesome. Thank you. And they updated it even more recently. I was going to make this video. It was going to be super janky. I had like 6 different screens, like tabs open, and I was just going to like bounce between the tabs and explain my reasoning. Now I don't have to do that because they updated the Collector's Center with this. This is, and I'm going to spread it out so that you can see it a little bit better. This is the Collector's Center entry for the heroes that we've received, there you go. That's easier to see, right? The heroes that we've received in the game in promo form, like in special, like cold foiling or rainbow foiling, as you can see here. And these are listed chronologically in their release. So you can see this is December 2019. Here we have August 2019, December 2019 as well, July 2020, and it just kind of snowballs, right, all the way through until, and it's hard to see, I know it's cut off over here, but like these are chronologically released, and it takes us all the way to here, which these were printed in March 2022, and they were released at the Uprising World premieres here. You know, like most recently, I think it was in end of June, early July, something like that, end of June. And then that takes us to where we're at now. So like, for example, the Kano cold foils were just given out at the Calling Charlotte. So if you participated in the Calling, then the cold foil Kano was available for you. August 2022 is when they were printed, and they were given out a few months later. I guess just 1 month later, because it was in September. And then Yoji, Royal Protector, is an armory hero that you can get in cold foil. It was also printed in August 2022. Now, this is where things get interesting, because Yoji is a hero, as we know, in Dynasty. And Kano isn't necessarily a hero in Dynasty. We don't technically know that. Obviously, Kano exists in the game already, my favorite hero in the game. But printed in a cold foiling is very interesting. And then we have all of these other entries. And this is where I was going to start the video originally, but then we got a random new spoiler, which was super cool that we get to talk about. And it kind of connects into what I've been thinking about for the past few days and how impactful this new set is going to be to the game. These are all heroes, okay? There are 6 heroes here listed, and they could be just like Kano. They could be heroes that connect somehow to this current state of the game. They could be heroes that are just basically like fancy reprints. That is a possibility. I mean, we see that did that with Kano, right? So it could be that we get another cold foil Kasai. But it's interesting because we actually got cold foil Kasai like way back here. So like you actually already have access to cold foil Kasai. I don't even know how far back we have to go. There it is. Cold foil Kasai was available back in August 2020. It could be something like other Volcor related heroes. Technically, you could get another cold foil Icelander. We did just get cold foil Icelander in the RTNs, so it doesn't really make sense for them to release that again. So what other cold foil heroes could we possibly see that are Volcor related? And that's where things take a turn. And this is why I think this set, one of the many reasons why I think this set is going to be huge. I think these are all new heroes. Almost all, if not all, new heroes that are going to be released in Dynasty. And if that's the case, we could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus the Emperor, 8 heroes get released in a single set. That is quite frankly incredible. Now that number seems a little bit high to me, but it could be that this is a set where we get some living legend recreated heroes. So like we get perhaps a chain. Maybe we even get a prism. I doubt the prism, but this could be, one of these could be a chain in a special like finish. And that could be alluding to a possibility that Chain is a new hero that's been, you know, recreated or rebranded or whatever you want to call, you know, evolved, whatever, in the Dynasty set. Now, if they don't do it here, then they have to put it into a draft set, and that seems a bit strange unless your next draft set is somehow connected to the story. And so with that, it strikes me that we could possibly be getting a reprinted hero in this set. But even if that's not the case, even if we don't get that, if there are that many heroes, and even if they're all Blitz, who cares? If there are that many young heroes or heroes period, what is that going to do to the various formats metas? How crazy and exciting and tumultuous in the best way possible is that going to be just at the moment when this set releases? That is one of the reasons why I think this has the capacity, Dynasty has the capacity to literally be one of the most influential sets in the game's existence. And this is the best part, it would be coming at the time where the game has hit its 3-year-old mark. And again, if you don't know anything about card games, most card games are said to have died within 3 years. And I don't think Flesh and Blood is dead in any form or facet. Maybe you disagree with me, but I disagree with you if that's the case, if that's what you believe. Because here we are a few days away from the 3-year mark. I mean, literally we're 5 days away, I think. It released October 11th, 2019. From a 3-year mark. Something like that, right? 11th or 8th? No, 11th, I think. We're that close. And the game is going to be celebrating its 3-year anniversary, and we're going to be getting a supplemental set or an expansion set that could be releasing with a ridiculous number of heroes. But it's not just that makes this set possible for being absolutely incredible. We talked about the spoiler already with weapons that could be included. In Crucible of War, the set was defined by the equipment that you had access to. The equipment was incredible. There were tons of pieces of equipment. There were tons of weapons as well. Well, a few weapons as well. This set is looking very similar. We have a weapon spoiled. We have a piece of equipment spoiled as well. I think there's a real chance that this set plays out like Crucible of War did and really changes the way that the game plays. But there's also a very important aspect to discuss, and that is the lore. Because the way that this set is being portrayed is very much centered on the lore and the storyline of Dynasty. And if you don't know, I'll do a very quick recap. I should make a longer video for this, I know. If you want a lore video, just tell me in the comments below that you want more lore videos, and then watch them, and then tell me you want more after that. So essentially, what is going on currently in Uprising is that Fi and Dromai, half-siblings, Dromai of which her parents were killed, and then she was taken in by Fi's mother. They have fought against each other. They really haven't engaged in fisticuffs in the storyline. But they stood diametrically opposed from each other for a portion of time. Dromai trying to earn the admiration and the acceptance of the Drakai, the upper class, and then Fi trying to undermine and destabilize the upper class itself in favor of the Volkai, the common folk. Well, it turns out, spoiler alert for the video I'm going to probably make at some point, it turns out that a lot of bad things went down when Dromai was a baby, and a lot of people in the Drakai betrayed Dromai's parents and then killed him. Well, technically, no, they didn't kill him, but led to the deaths of Dromai's parents. And she did not take well to that, and so she made a dragon eat a guy, and then technically before that made a dragon eat a girl too. And then she went off and she sat in the oasis that borders between Volcor and Mysteria and decided that she was going to go kill the Emperor along with her half-brother, but not technically along with him, because he's doing his own thing, but she now has her own like side vengeance plot. So that's kind of where Uprising stands. But from the Dynasty perspective, it's all about this guy, the Emperor. And the Emperor is interesting because the Emperor in this lore article, by the way, if you didn't know, you can actually just go to story. You can go to the Emperor, like, so if I click about, you can like read about that. But if you go to story, it takes you to the story that they've posted, this lore article that they've posted. And I highly recommend you read this lore article. I don't have the full thing on the screen. I guess I could get the full thing on the screen for you. It's the least I could do. And that's what a professional would do. And that's why we're not professionals here. So, there you go. Now you can read the whole thing. There's this idea that's hinted at. We're just going to put it that way. That the Emperor of Volcor, which previous to there being an emperor, Volcor was just a bunch of like feuding factions of generals that would just vie for territory and control, very much like China back in the day. So they were just fighting and fighting. And so then the emperor comes around, and the emperor had a very specific responsibility. Besides just unifying the kingdom of Volcor, the emperor also was said to have kept the Aesir that lived under the mountain asleep. And that's kind of a big deal, because if the Aesir wakes up, well, that's not a good thing. So also lore follow-up, if you don't know what the Aesir is, or an Aesir is, you're not alone. We still don't quite know exactly what they are, but we can kind of surmise that they are beings of incredible power, perhaps something akin to Lovecraftian old gods. Okay, that's kind of what Aesir are. And there are not just one or two Aesir, there are multiple hints and references towards lots of them. And perhaps even one per region in the game, which is really interesting because they're starting to piece together these Aesir and their little hints, and I think that's really cool. Like, for example, the war between Shadow and Light is being fought because a long time ago, a group of scholars discovered something bad about Sol, and that something that everyone believed about Solana was actually not the case. And they hint that possibly something light about Solana is actually darkness. And so they are cast out of Solana, and they go to the monastery, and they, beat themselves up and like study ancient texts and tomes, and like, do nefarious looking things with the idea that they need to gain power so that they can defeat Solana, which is posing a clear and present danger to the world of Wraith, which is very interesting. And so there's this idea that they believe that what they're doing is going to be for the greater good because something big and bad, and they even say the word Aesir. The Aesir are returning, and they have to stop them. So they think they're going to kill Solana. Funnily enough, we'll talk about that again in a moment, because Aesir are also referenced in this article, and literally the name of the Emperor. He is the Drakai of Aesir. By the way, another lore side note, Drakai is a term to reflect the importance that one person takes on. So for example, the Emperor being the Drakai of Aesir means that his role is tied to the Aesir. The Drakai of Aether, also known as Kano, his role, I don't have him on my desk right now, his role is to figure out what is destabilizing Aether within Volcor, because something was destabilizing the Aether, and wizards were literally self-immolating on accident. They were lighting themselves on fire because they couldn't control the Aether. We've even seen most recently with the Tall Timmy spoiler, he received a letter that said the Drakai of Ceremonies, and they gave us a name for the Drakai of Ceremonies. So someone in charge of ceremonies. So the Drakai of Aesir, this guy, this emperor, not only has a role to unify and rule over the kingdom of Volcor, but he also has a role of keeping the Aesir that lives at the bottom of the mountain, that also was known as the Great Dragon of Volcor, whose breath apparently fires the mountain on Mountain Volcor, which is a volcano, asleep. That's his role. And it talks about this, and it talks about it in very specific terms, because if you read through here, there's this, like throne room altar type thing, and the altar is like hewn and carved, and the symbols roam from raw rock to wrought iron and glass, replaced during his reign by the dynasty's finest metallurgists and glaziers. And this is the interesting part, because he replaced and then put this over them, over this altar, because muffled whispers scratch at the glass. The Emperor is all too familiar with those insidious promises. They are the sovereign's blessing and his curse. He has listened to them since he was a young man, long before he took the throne from his father. Today he wishes they would be silent. Okay, so I just want to, this is lore stuff, okay? If you don't like lore stuff, I'm so sorry, but you have to understand that this set is going to be groundbreaking for lore, because it's going to piece together a lot of questions. And this is one of those questions. They very much use the term whispers and insidious promises. And then, let's see, where does it happen? I believe it's down here, after this whole story. It actually uses the term Aesir, and yeah, that's right. It's like down here. He says, he rose from his knees and he stumbled towards the pounding thunder of the Aesir's song. From buried beyond, it called to him. His heart marked time with a cadence, his mind filled with mesmerizing rhythms. The song that is being, I guess, sung by this Aesir is alluding to the whispers and the calls from this altar, which he has covered up to try and bring the volume down, perhaps. We'll just say it that way. But the Emperor has heard the cries rise up from beyond the walls of the capital. This is back in like normal time, not the previous story where he first discovers this thing, which you should totally read this whole thing. Just read it. While he communed with the Aesir, the empire beyond tore itself apart. His role, the Emperor's role, is to be the conduit or the connection to this Aesir, so that it doesn't, I guess, either itself wake up, or perhaps wake up the dragon, which could be an elemental. I don't know. It doesn't quite connect all the dots, but what he's doing is acting as sort of like a stopgap, keeping this thing at bay. And that's a big deal, because the Aesir are basically like the big bad of this storyline. At least that's what they're kind of showing us. And if at any point the Emperor gets overthrown and someone doesn't take up the mantle, and it also alludes to literally taking up the crown, because once he puts the crown on, he hears all of the whispers, which I think is hilarious, because when you put this on in game, you become a royal. Yeah, if his job doesn't get taken over, this thing wakes up and literally all hell could break loose, and that's really interesting, because we started to see these connections, and we see connections, like I mentioned, whispers and insidious promises. If you go back to the lore of when Viserai chooses to betray his master and open the portal to Arathiel, allowing Chain and Leviah to go and get the power of the Embra. Oh my god, this sounds so geeky, but it's so cool. When Viserai makes this choice and actually allows them to cross over into the plane of Arathiel and go and actually get the Embra to go and fight the war, he is convinced to do so by muffled whispers he hears from a stained glass window, who's referred to as Whisper, the fountain of lies, made insidious promises to him that he shouldn't trust the person who attempts to usurp all the power and turn their back on their blood or something like that. All I'm saying is that there's a really interesting connection through line in these whispers and these insidious promises, and this thing being covered by glass and metal and a stained glass window that shattered and then allowed another veil to be torn and a realm to be opened. what I'm getting at, and this is a long rambly video, apologies. If you made it to this point, type the word cookie. Type your favorite cookie type. Like what's chocolate chip or macadamia? Nobody likes macadamia nut. Just type in your favorite cookie in the comments so I'll know you made it to this point. All these through lines are being connected in the lead up to this set, and that makes me a very happy DM Armada. Because, oh, not that one. Because we have this, and we have like 24 days until I get to drop a spoiler, of which I have not seen yet. And so if I'm not on the right track at all and like these connections don't exist, sue me, it's fine. But man, this is looking really cool. And I think we have some really interesting and exciting times ahead of us with this set. And this set literally could be the most impactful from a wide range of reasons to the game of Flesh and Blood. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in a comment below. If you enjoyed listening to this rant and ramble for like 25 minutes, make that number go to a slightly higher number, and eventually it will say 10500, and that would be really cool. As always, thanks for watching.